Okay, Boker Tov. Today's daf is the last daf of Maseches Yevamot, Kuf Chaf Bet 122. We pick up 3 lines from the bottom on Kuf Chaf Aleph Amud Bet, and we are dealing with the question about who is believed to testify that a man has died, and the Mishnah introduced the issue about women, children. Women we had already implicitly had before. But also even things that seem to be like just conversational, non-intentional, said in passing, and by the non-Jew maybe specifically if it was said only in passing, or otherwise there's a concern that maybe it's intentionally being misrepresented in order to cause problems. So now the Gemara picks up 3 lines on the bottom. Where were we? We also had the important point at the end yesterday that was that even though in the case of Mayim She'ein Lahem Sof, that a woman is not allowed to remarry. Nevertheless, if she does go ahead and remarries, and in one case even without a psak, we do not make her divorce. So that was also a very important leniency. And as Rabbi Dov pointed out at the end of yesterday, which we failed to mention, there was obviously a little pun going on because the guy who had drowned, his name was chasa, which is lettuce, and the statement of Rav Nachman was that the fish are eating chasa, are eating the lettuce, on the basis of which the wife went and remarried, assuming that it was a psak or that the husband had died. Okay. Anyway, we pick up now 3 lines from the bottom. So there was a certain non-Jew that told the Jew, cut down this fodder, or this grain of the aspasta is like the stuff that is not yet have grain on it. Fodder, I guess, and throw it to my animals on Shabbos. Okay, so he was forcing a Jew to work for him on Shabbos and to cut this and to cut this grain. If you don't do it, if you don't do it, I will kill you like I killed this other Jew, Reuben ben Shimon. The Amali Basheli K'dera, the Amile, I said to him, Basheli K'dera b'Shabbos, cook for me a pot on Shabbos. Well, Basheli, and he refused to cook for me on Shabbos, and I killed him. So you'd better do this stuff for me on Shabbos, or else I'll kill you like I killed this other Jew who wouldn't do work for me on Shabbos.
He could have stayed alive for a meatball.
So Shama de Vasayu, so the wife heard of the guy who said he had killed, who apparently hadn't been home for a while, and she was wondering what had happened to him. So the wife heard about this, but also coming to Abaye and came to Abaye. So it said, what's the story? So this non-Jew said, it sounds like a little Mesiach Lefi Tumo, right? Which from our Mishnah is okay. He's not doing it to testify. He's just sort of taking it as a point, like he's assuming it as a fact and just happening to mention it. So can I assume my husband is dead? So Shehisa Tlosa Rigle. He made her wait 3 regalim. Why? So obviously he was conflicted about what the halacha was here. Now Rashi says either because at the regalim, that's when, if you look at Rashi, Shayu Tamilei Chachamim Nikpatzim Lishmo Adrasha Hilchos Pesach LePesach Vayisei Shoelos Mehem. So one is, as we know, that there would be a big gathering at the time of the regalim to be learning the halachot of the Chag, and so he was going to ask, he was going to ask his colleagues at that time for their opinion about this. Well, I don't know. So maybe he didn't find it. He asked all 3, he kept on asking, and he didn't feel that he got a good resolution. Now, then Rashi has another, it wasn't necessarily the intention, he had planned 3, but Lamaisa was 3. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Rashi has another interesting answer. B'shuas hagoni matzasi kol hanach rigli damorai hanu yom shemespo adam gadol. Regal here does not mean the regalim, like the pilgrimage holidays. It means period of time. He waited 3 yortzites, right? Years? So here there is 3 years. So here the Gaonim read this practice of yortzite into this Gemara, right? Because we have no real reference in the Gemara to an idea of yortzite.
That was around by the
time. Rashi says by the Gaonim apparently Rigli da Amorai Hanu Yom Shemesvo Adam Gadol. So they didn't say by anybody, but like by a major sage. You commemorate the day of death, the anniversary of death. All the sages gather from in the area, and they all come to the grave. Im Shara'am Lo Shiv Yeshiva Sham, and they have a day of learning in commemoration of the person's death. So here you have an idea of like a yurtzeit lecture and a special day of a yurtzeit specifically for a big Talmid Chacham. So again, it's obviously being read into the Gemara. The Gemara isn't saying any of this, but it's fascinating to see that was already something that a practice of the Yonim that they wanted to understand was what was being referred to. That's the first reference to this? As far as I know, I did not do the research. So anyway, so we waited these 3 periods to get input from other sages, and still wasn't able to resolve the question for her. So Amarla Rav Ada bar Ava, so Rav Ada bar Ava said to her, because she's maybe getting frustrated, so she's asking some other opinions. Zila coming to Rav Yosef. You know what? You should go ask Rav Yosef, who was a biased Rabbi. The Charish Sakina. He's got a sharp knife. Okay, he can help you split the hairs that you have to do. He can help you, like he'll be able to resolve this issue for you. Azla Kameh, so she went to him. Pashat Meha, he concluded her status from the following Braita. It says Meha Masnisan, or to be Masnisa. Ovi Kochavim Shaya Moche Peos B'Shok. A non-Jew was selling fruit in the marketplace. These fruit are really great. They're from a tree that's only been, that's only born, started to bear fruit. It's in its 2nd year since it's been planted. So he didn't explicitly say they're usher in their orla, but he was saying that they are from a 2nd year tree, let's say. So azakahem, they are of azakah. Now what is azakah? So Rashi says what the expression Rashi prefers is azakah is a place in Eretz Yisrael, and he's selling them in Chutz La'aretz. And there's a question of whether you have to worry about their being tevel not taken from some meisters. The other read of azakah that Rashi didn't like is he says that they are fruit that has been in a field that was guarded on Shemitah. Okay, so from the verb meaning like to guard or to protect. The reason Rashi doesn't like it is because all these cases is the non-Jew is saying something that makes it halachically problematic. And Rashi says, why does guarding a field on Shemitah make the fruit forbidden? Either the fruit is mutter before the time of biur, or it's forbidden after the time of biur. What does that have to do if you watch the fruit on Shemitah? And this is a very relevant and important halacha, especially now that it's the Shemitah year. So if you take a quick look at Tosfos, he says, Shalazaka, Pirish Bekuntris, Mipardes Uzak Umishumar, Vishviyasi. The kashalov, so that's what they've been a protected field on Shemitah. But Rashi is bothered. Ikodem her biur ola mutter. That who cares? Since when does fruit become usher? Don't harvest your grapes. You cannot harvest from grapes that have been protected, like kept the other people out, that you've exerted your ownership over them. But you can from stuff that has been allowed to be hefker. So that actually the act of shmira and of exerting your bailus, your ownership over the field, makes it prohibited to harvest, but presumably possibly also makes the fruit forbidden as well. And this, again, it's so fascinating that this very central question, right, is not discussed in a Mishnah, it's not discussed in Yerushalmi. He has to quote the Toras Kohanim. Rashi doesn't even reference it. So it's quite fascinating how some central laws of Shemitah, are so debated and so much based on very sparse evidence. So that's just fascinating, and I mentioned it because it's a Shemitah year. But anyway, back to the Gemara. I don't know. He doesn't mention that Toras Kohanim. Anyway, so back to the Gemara. So he's saying the non-Jew is saying these things, and he sort of is like unwittingly saying things that make them that make it halachically problematic. Okay, so he says that. So he says so. So keep on going. Or shall neta revayhen, or which it should have been said by the Orla, or that within the 4th year of the tree being planted. Okay. Lo amar klum. He didn't say anything. You don't have to worry about his testimony. He was only trying to, say that look how good these wares are that I have, and therefore it's not mesiach lefitumo. There's another reason why he's saying these and why it might not be accurate. Okay, he thinks if I say they're from this, protected field, or they're from Eretz Yisrael, or they're from a young tree, maybe those are things that in his mind make it better, and therefore it's not a mesiach lefitumo. There's other things which might mean that we can't trust what he's saying. Now, how is that relevant? I don't know. How is that relevant? Yeah, that's a question too. Like, if it's Shemitah, who cares if it's a non-Jew? Right, yeah. All right, fine. We're not doing Hilchos Shemitah. That is correct. It's good to point that out. Now, the question is, how's this relevant? Okay, there anyway, we're being machmir. We're not, so he's saying something that makes it worse. Here he's saying something that makes it like better. There we're being makil. We're disregarding what he's saying, and we're able to be lenient and eat the fruit. right? So so that's anyway a difference. Here you want to, if you disregard him, you'll be machmir. If you pay attention, you'll be lenient. But maybe that's the point, that if we disregard him, even if what he is saying would make us have to be concerned l'chumra, and we're willing to disregard him, how much more so should we disregard him and we can't rely on him l'kula? Right, you got it. If we're not even going to be machmir based on what he says, how much more so can we not be makeup? But fine. But what happened to the rule that you can rely on a non-Jew? So what Rashi points out is yes, but what this is telling you is not when you have a reason to think he might be lying. So we have a reason to think he might be lying in the case of the fruit. Why do we have a reason to think he might be lying in the first case? Because he's saying you better do it, because if you don't do it, I'll kill you like I killed someone else. So therefore, he's just doing it to threaten the guy. Right? And since he's just doing it to threaten the guy, there is no reason to assume that it's not a Mesiach Lefitu.
Even took him 3 years to figure that out?
What? Yeah, so that's an interesting question.
About 2 minutes.
I know, exactly. But maybe the reason it was taking Abaye so long is you realize that the result of this is that the woman couldn't remarry. So maybe Abaye realized the relevance of this and didn't want to give her an answer because he was trying to find a way to make it mutter, right? But all right, but if he went to Rav Yosef, he got a faster answer, but the answer was it's usher. The answer was you can't remarry, so that doesn't do her a lot of good. So it could be like Abaye also realized this, but maybe was trying to find a way to be Mako regardless.
Okay, it's very specific, and there really was a guy.
Right, that's the thing. You could say that he's so specific, and the guy hasn't been seen in 3 years, right? So maybe that it's one thing to say I killed somebody else. If he said I killed a particular person, and he hasn't been seen in 3 years, well, again, you're right. That's exactly true. It's a good or better reason to assume he was telling the truth. Okay, so this puts a limit on the idea of believing a non-Jew Mesiach Lefitumo when there is a reason to think that he is lying. Let's continue. Now we're going to have some cases where they did believe. Again, going back to believing the non-Jew. Abba Yudin Ish Seidan, Abba Yudin from Seidan, Amar said the following: Ma'isa b'Yisrael a Jew and a non-Jew were going on the way. Like it's set up for a joke. And the non-Jew came and said, Chaval al Yehudi. And so we saw him going with Reuven on a trip, and then he came back from the trip and Reuven wasn't with him. And he said, Chaval al Yehudi, Shaya, I lost my place. Shaya imi baderech. Woe to that Jew that was with me on our trip. Shemeis baderech l'kvartiv, that he died on the way and I had to bury it. They married off his wife. Fine.
For sure, there was actually a grave over there.
What? Apparently not. Apparently not. Now there's going to be a little discussion at the end about how much you check, but even there, that's not checking the facts. It's just asking the witness a few times just to make sure his story is consistent, right? Again, obviously nowadays they would try to check as much as possible. Okay, but it is a good point that Michael makes, which is there's no indication here of any attempt to try to be mavara the facts. Right? We can assume that it wasn't easy, or maybe it was even difficult to do that. But it's a good point that doesn't even address that issue. Okay. For Shuv Maaseh B'Kol HaShabnei Adam, another story which was there was a group of people. They were going to Antuchaya, Antioch. And a non-Jew came, and he wasn't even walking with them. He just came back from the same place. And he said, Chaval al Kol HaShabnei Adam, woe to the group of people, Shemesu V'Kvartim, that they all died, and I buried them. And they married off their wives. And another story of 60 people. They were going to this place of Karkom Beitar. And a non-Jew came and said, they were going to the way of Beitar. They died, and I buried them. And they married off their wives. So after telling us cases where we're afraid that a non-Jew might be lying in a particular circumstance, it ends by a series of cases where just no special case. Stam non-Jew says, I saw them, and they died, and we believe them. Today's case of Mesiach Lefi Tumo, right? And gets also back to the earlier discussion about what is considered nitkavein laha'id, where the Gemara says that even if he's coming and saying, he wants to explicitly inform the wife and let her know, that wasn't considered to be nitkavein laha'id. So the Gemara is willing to be pretty broad in terms of accepting the testimony of the non-Jew. Okay, yes.
But in terms of death, we also had questions like, can it be Kimedumelo? But over here, it can't be Kimedumelo if he actually buried them. You know what I mean? So that also, sheds light as to
What do you mean?
remember we said about death, how do you know the guy's dead?
Right. These are cases about
really bury them. So
right. Exactly. These are cases about who do you believe, not whether you can assume the guy is dead.
And do we actually sort of,
Yeah, I mean we do. I mean these came up. As having a whole talk with Jonathan the other day about these. There's a whole book about how they dealt with these in the 9/11 cases, and these come up. Sadly, these Gemaras are used a good deal, in particular, in
we do rely
real
on
issues.
too.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's interesting too. I was wondering about the phrase kolar, because kolar often means like chains, and Sansino said it was just a way of referring to a group. But I wondered if they were being taken out because they were prisoners, right? I don't know what Sansino says, what Steinzelt says, or anybody else says. Also, I misexplained, right? I said Karkom Beitar. Karkom is not the name of a place. Karkom means like the besieged city. So in both of these cases, it is worth mentioning. If kola does mean that they were prisoners, so in both of these cases there are circumstances which is reasonable to assume that something had happened. Like you have a whole group of prisoners, it's more likely that they all will have died, as opposed to just a normal group of people. You have people that are heading to a city that's under siege, it's more likely that they'll die than under normal circumstances. So it's not clear to what degree that context is part of what gave believability to his claim.
Well, the other one, you're just with him on the road.
Yeah, the other one he was just with him on the road. But it was only one person. Right.
People shackled with collars.
Shackled with collars.
Both of those. And it talks about going to a dangerous zone.
A dangerous zone, right? So again, it's not exactly clear how much that factored into the position here. Let's take a look.
It's like the English word collar.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's look at the next Mishnah. Mi'idim le'or haner or le'or halavana. So now we get back to not who do you believe, but what constitutes witnessing something. So before we talked about like the guy was in a dangerous situation where you can assume he died, or maybe you might assume he died. Now we're talking about how well did you see him. Okay, even if you only saw the person by candlelight or by moonlight, so you have to see his face, right? But maybe even through like limited light. Umisina pibatko, and you can marry based on a heavenly voice. So that's not what a baskol means. Actually, look at Rashi. Baskol shamu kotso eket ploni mate v'lo ra'u adam ba'atzmo. So baskol actually, this is important to know in terms of because baskol is so much used in the Bavli to mean a heavenly voice, but that's not really its original meaning. Its original meaning means a disembodied voice. Okay, it's just the voice without seeing the source from where it's emitting. Okay, so sometimes batko can even mean like a rumor went around or a report went around, right? As opposed to a voice came out of heaven. All right, so batko, so that's what it means. You can marry somebody if you heard a voice, even if you didn't see who was saying it. Once you can believe anybody, so who cares who's saying it, right? So even if you just heard a voice. Ma'aseh be'echad, there was a story about a person, Shamar al Rosh Shahar, he stood at the top of a mountain. Amar, each ploni ben ploni mimoka ploni mace. Okay, so and so by the son of so and so has died. V'halchu v'lo matzu sham adam, and they went to see who had said it. And by the time they got there, nobody was there. So here you have a case, Michael, of going and trying to investigate the facts to some degree. And even though they couldn't find the person to get any more information, and they just had the voice, that was enough. Okay, V'shuv ma'aseh. Of course, you could say, well, what if he's a non-Jew? That may see a chafituma, but nevertheless, you try to find out more information. But if you can't, that's enough. V'shuv ma'aseh b'tzalmon. There was a story in Salmon. Be'echad shamar ani ish ploni ben ish ploni nashchini nachash. I, so and so, the son of so and so, I've just been bitten by a poisonous snake. V'arei ani mace, and I am dying. They went, and by the time they got there, they could not tell who he was because his figures had changed. It bloated or something. They married off his wife. So what you see here again is, on the one hand, an important point about trying to get more information if possible, right? Which raises that point, and also the point we made before about like maybe supporting evidence about the context that it was a time of war and so on. If that wasn't said explicitly, but that might have somewhat implicit. So you try to sort of look at those things, but in cases where you can't find out anything more, we're being very, very liberal in terms of what constitutes, testimony that we will marry off the woman.
But then the repercussions, right? Like, if the guy comes back later, then,
Yeah, exactly. Part of what it, that is. That has not been mentioned for a while in this Gemara, but yes, there's the earlier perek that if it turns out that he's alive, there's all those negative consequences that the wife will have to suffer if she remarried. Amar Rabbi Bar Shmuel, Tana, we taught in Brisa. Beit Shammai Yomim ein mesin al pi batko. Beit Shammai says if you just have a disembodied voice, you cannot let the woman marry off. Beit Hillel mesin al pi batko. You can't. So my Kamash Milan must Nisini. So big deal. It's a big deal. Who cares? We got to stand Mishnah, of course. So the Gemara says, HaKamash Milan di Mishtachach Stama de Masian. They tell you that if you find another stam, not Mishnah, but Breita or some other source that says don't marry off, don't say, oh, well, that goes up against our Mishnah. Maybe the halacha isn't so clear. No, Beit Shammai, you should know it's Beit Shammai. You should know to be able to bracket it and put it aside, which is interesting because that's the question is asked in the Mishnayos in Edios. Why did we mention a das yachid if we're not going to paskin like it? And there are two answers to that question. One answer is because we want that opinion recorded, so we might be able to go back to it b'shas hadachak, right, which is embracing the multiple opinions. And the other answer is no, we want that opinion recorded so that if anybody comes and claims that this is the halacha, we can sort of marginalize it and bracket it and say, yeah, you're going by a das yachid that's already been rejected. So that actually the point of recording a das yachid is for the purpose of being able to remove it from the system, not include it within the system, to be able to push it out. No, I don't think both are true. I think those are very opposite approaches. So that's what the Gemara is saying here about Beit Shammai, about this. It's important to note that this opinion is Beit Shammai. So if you ever hear somebody else saying this opinion, you'll be able to dismiss it. You'll be able to say, yeah, it's Beit Shammai. We don't pass it that way. That's point number one. Point number two is, of course, it's a little bit interesting. I can't say ironic because sometimes people say ironic to mean the exact opposite of ironic. I mean, it's coincidental. It's very apropos. That's ironic. Exactly. It's highly appropriate that, remember, when Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai were arguing who the halacha is like, a Baskel comes out and says halacha is like Beit Hillel. So here, Beit Shammai is saying we don't go by a Baskel. Beit Hillel saying we do go by a Baskel. I thought to say Baskel, but I couldn't resist making that point. Yes.
Both you need both those approaches, even though they are polarized. In other words, it's certain context. Certain times you'll need to be inclusive of
right.
the data,
Yes. Correct. All right. The Halchav Matu. They went and they did not find the person who had made this announcement. The Dilma Shade Have. Maybe. How do you know it was a person? Maybe it was a demon. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amarav Sharo.
For what? Therefore, demons lying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, demons all wanted to create problem. Okay, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amarav Sharolo Demut Adam. He looked like a person. So Inu Nami Damu. They also look like person. People. The Chazale Babua. You saw a shadow. Hinu Nami Islu Babua. Then don't they also have shadows? The Chazale Babua de Babua. You saw a shadow of a shadow. Okay, I don't know what a shadow is. Okay, maybe they also have it. No, Yonasan, the demon said to me, Babua eat lihu, that demons have shadows, Babua de Babua lately, they don't have shadows. Okay, the Dilma Tsara Havai, maybe it was the co-wife, could have said also, who we would not believe it has money, because even if, we don't worry about the Mesiach Lefitumo idea, again, what constitutes Mesiach Lefitumo might be a very broad category, so we're not going to worry about the non-Jew case, but there are people that we don't believe regardless, like the co-wife. Apparently we couldn't tell enough, it was from distance that it was a male voice, and sometimes, sometimes men have high-pitched voices, sometimes women have low-pitched voices, so maybe it was a co-wife. So
of the shade.
No. So the Gemara says, at a time of danger, you can go ahead and write and give a get, even though you don't know the person. Now that's an analogous argument. It's not the same point. The case there is, if you look at Rashi, b'shasa sakana, shada misukan. Right? Somebody, you hear a voice similar coming from a well saying, I'm Reuven ben Shimon, write again and give it to my wife. Again, the reason somebody is saying that is probably the safer from Yibum situations. So even though you don't see him and you don't recognize him, you trust it because otherwise, you have no choice. Otherwise, he's going to die and you won't have a chance to give the wife a get. So you don't have the luxury of getting more data. You can rely on that. So right, so here everything. So again, it's not sakana the person. Some person is in danger, but the point is, what choice do we have? If we don't have any other choices, then we can assume that if somebody says this is who they are, that's who they are. Okay, or I guess actually it's a little different because here the person didn't say who they are; they just said so and so died, right? And they didn't necessarily even give their own name. But nevertheless, we can make a reasonable assumption here, and we don't have to worry that it's one of the 5 people who dafka we can't believe. I'm a Rabbi Akiva. Now, don't tell this to the tsaras and to the mother-in-laws and daughter-in-laws, and they'll go on mountaintops and start making announcements. I'm a Rabbi Akiva. Said Rabbi Akiva, when I went down to Narda, Aber Hashanah, to make a leap year, again, quite fascinating. He's doing it in Bavel, right? The phrase Yaradati, of course, because, Eretz Yisrael to other Aratzot, you speak about doing Yerida, right? This came up before. We quoted it earlier about that sometimes you can do Kiddush HaChodesh in Bavel if there is not a similar type of people of authority in Eretz Yisrael. Of course, it's funny. Rabbi Akiva was in Eretz Yisrael. He left Eretz Yisrael in order to do this. Anyway, so that's fascinating in terms of issues of Kiddush HaChodesh. Or Iber Shana. Matzati Nechemia ish Beit Li. I found this person Nechemia from Beit Li. Amarli Shamati Shem Nesina Tisha Beit Yisrael Al Piyedecha Del Rabbi Eli Yehuda ben Baba. I heard that now. This is really fascinating because you're hearing that everything we've been assuming until this point about the broad acceptance of testimony. And remember, it started with Beit Hillel. I want to remind you that it started with Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai, a discussion of harvesting the wheat and coming back from this wheat harvest, and that was about the wife reporting about her own husband's death. Until then, we just simply slid into this idea of not just a wife, anybody, and not just a adult male, not a woman, a minor, a non-Jew. No, not a shame. So we've all of a sudden assumed, like, all of a sudden you can believe anyone, right? And when did all of this develop? Who decided this or whatever? Even the initial thing of believing the wife was a whole debate of Beit Hillel, Beit Shammai, whether to leave it as a very narrow circumstance. And now we're going to find out that this huge chiddush and innovation in Eretz Yisrael was only the position of Yehuda ben Baba. Nobody else was doing this. Shamati she'ein masiyin et ish Eretz Yisrael al pi yedecha el Yehuda ben Baba. Vinomiti lo, and I said to him, that's a more archaic form of marti lo. Vinomiti lo, kein hadvarim, that is correct. Amarli, he said to me, and more lehem mishmi, go tell them in my name in Eretz Yisrael, atem yodim she'medina mishubeshet b'kayasot. You know that this country is like corrupt. I mean, but it's like like whatever, riddled. Thank you, excellent word. Riddled with troops, and and I can't travel. It's very hard to travel, so I can't go and testify myself. But tell them the following in my name. I have a tradition from the elder Rebbe Gamliel going way back. That you can marry off a woman based on one witness, and that is not just a position that should be just a Rebbe Yehuda position. And notice this isn't even the question about women and non-Jews and minors, just basically somebody who isn't the wife. Eid Echad, okay? I came and I told this to Rebbe Gamliel, not Rebbe Gamliel the Zakein, Rebbe Gamliel the younger, not the older, right? The one that was in the generation of Rebbe Akiva. Samach lidvarai, he rejoiced with my words, because especially it was in the name of his ancestor. Amar matzanu chaver Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. We have now found a support to Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, a supporting testimony. And then because they were talking about this, and that this is now we have somebody that backs this up, and you see clearly they wanted this to be the halacha, but they maybe felt that they did not have enough to go on to establish this as the halacha, and now they had this ancient tradition that they heard to reinforce it and to support it. And in the middle of this discussion, Nizka Rabbi Gamliel shenergu harugim betel arza, he remembered that there had been these reports about people that had been killed in Tel Arza, and nothing had been done about it, because apparently the reports about it had come based on Eid Echad. So on the basis of this report that they got from Naharda, they were able to really establish this as the halacha, and then to go ahead and act on it, right? It's amazing. Like, what if this one event had not occurred, right? And this is sort of the whole message also of Maseches Edios, the importance of gathering up all these testimonies so that this doesn't get lost.
That was a minority opinion.
The Huchziku, it had for a while been minority, but then it was reinforced and it was given backing. The Huchziku lios Messian, and then that led to establishing the practice. So this is like really fascinating, where you see the whole history of halacha and halachic innovation, and how it all sort of developed here. So once that was true, and it went from theory to practice, the practice became established. Liot Messian Eid Mipi Eid, and not only Eid Echad, but now we're even going to go even further than everything we've said before. Not only Eid Echad, not only women and non-Jews and children, but hearsay testimony. Eid Mipi Eid, you didn't even claim to see it yourself. And Mipi Eved, and a slave. And mipi isha, which we had been saying, interesting that comes after the Eved, mipi shivcha, and from a non-Jew, and from a slave, and from a slave woman. Okay, so once we established it, we didn't leave it at Eid Echad. We included any person to testify, and we haven't mentioned slaves until this point. The Gemara doesn't assume that just because a non-Jew is believed, a slave is believed. The Gemara has very negative attitudes towards slaves, even worse than non-Jews at times. Okay, and number two, the big chiddush we haven't heard yet is hearsay testimony. Rabbi Yeshua Omim, so that's like an amazing story about how this whole principle got established. Now, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua say, who are Rabbi Akiva's Rebbeim, remember, so this was probably before this event. They say, Ein Messina to Isha al pi Eid Echad. You cannot marry a woman off on one testimony. They disagreed with Yehuda ben Bubba's position. Rabbi Akiva Omer, Lo al pi Isha, v'lo al pi Eved, v'lo al pi Shifcha, v'lo al pi Kruvim. You can do it al pi Eid Echad, but not a woman or slaves or not relatives. So here you have all these restrictions, So what's going on here? Didn't we just say that they made a wide allowance? So the Gemara asks this. For several Rabbi Akiva al pi Isha lo, does Rabbi Akiva really say you can't do it based on a woman? Rabbi Shimon Eliezer says in the name of Rabbi Akiva, Isha ne'emenes lavi gita mikal v'chomer. A woman could bring her own get and testify that it was signed and sealed correctly based on a kal v'chomer. What's the kal v'chomer? The women that are not allowed to be believed to say that a woman's husband died, right? The co-wife and the mother-in-law and whatever, they can bring a get for a woman and say that it was done correctly because the actual written and signed get supports their statement. So they are believed there. A woman who's believed to say her husband died, how much more so should she be believed to bring her own get? So the Gemara points out this whole issue about women testifying about the death of a husband was a specific set of women. So implicit in that statement is the five types of women, co-wife and mother-in-law, whatever, they're the ones that aren't believed. Implicitly a woman is believed. So Rabbi Akiva clearly holds a woman is believed. So lo kasha. It all is before or after the story with Rebbe Gamliel and the story about Rabbi Akiva hearing this report in Naharda. So this is amazing, right? The end of the Mishnah is an early layer, right? Imagine this, right? The early layer was we'd established, right, that a woman is believed. Imagine that we don't have any of our parak. Right, we said way back, Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai, there was a debate about do you believe a wife in general? Beit Shammai says in general, yes. Beit Hillel says only in narrow cases, and Beit Hillel rules like Beit Shammai. Fine. At that point, all we had established was that a wife was believed. You all just took, we slid it under, the radar that we then assumed that we're going to believe anyone. Okay, but no, all we really had established at that early Beit Hillel Beit Shammai say is the wife is believed. If you would come then and read the last line of the Rosh Mishnah, you'd find out there's a debate about do you believe people other than the wife. Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua says, no, you don't believe Eid Echad. The only person you believe is the wife for two Eidim. It's a special din with the wife. Comes along Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva says, you believe Eid Echad, but only a kosher Eid, only a man, right? Only an adult male, right? So, and that's the whole debate. And that's, okay, that would have been very limited. And now we find out all of that was before they got this report from Bavel. They got this report from Bavel that to support a position of Yehuda ben Baba, to support an idea that you marry off based on Eid Echad, okay, and then Rebbe Gamliel acted on it. It became practice. Once it became established as practice, not only did they believe Eid Echad, but they believed a wide category. Right? They believed they believed women and minors and non-Jews and slaves, and they even believed hearsay testimony. So it's really like breathtaking how radically, right, the discourse changed on the basis of that. And this last line in the Mishnah, is a vestige of that earlier stage, which we wouldn't have even been aware of, right? So it's quite fascinating to how much we see about halachic history and development in this little Gemara here. Okay, next Mishnah, last Mishnah. Amrlo. So they said to Rabbi Akiva, right, who said that that you don't believe the early Rabbi Akiva
before he retracted,
who said you don't believe women. So they said to Rabbi Akiva, Masa b'vnei Levi, there's a story about this people called Bnei Levi, Shahalchu l'tzoar, Ir Tamarim, they went to Tzoar, the city of palm trees, of date palms, right? V'chola echad mehem, and one of them died, Veviu b'pundak, and they had him stay at an inn while they went on their trip.
One of them got sick.
One of them got sick. I said died. I was anticipating the end of the story. One of them, well, I ruined the story, right? Because you don't know, you never know how these things are going to end, right? Anyway, one of them got sick, so they put him up in an inn as they went on their journey. And when they returned, they said to the inn woman, where is our colleague? No mislahem. She said to them, he died and I buried him. And on the basis of this, they married off the wife. So you see, Rabbi Akiva, you can believe a woman. And should not a bas kohen be as good as this innkeeper? If you could believe an innkeeper, how much there are a lot of women in our community that are at that are more believable than her. What about people with yichus and so on? How could you say you don't believe women if you even believe this woman innkeeper? Amar lahu, he said back to them, Amar lahem, it should be if they will be like this innkeeper, they'll be believed. What was special about the Pundakis? She didn't just say it. She brought out his effects, his staff, right, like Tamar, his staff and his sack, the Sefer Torah Shaya B'Yado, and his Sefer Torah that wasn't in the Yehuda and Tamar story. So he brought out his effects. So there was supporting evidence, but without supporting evidence, says Rabbi Akiva, I wouldn't believe a woman. But again, this is the Ir Tamarim. You're good, Rabbi Dov. You picked up the eating of the lettuce from yesterday, the chasa. Okay, anyway, all right, I did not pick that up at all. Anyway, so here is the early Rabbi Akiva, who says you don't believe women before. Notice, by the way, the intellectual honesty, that even though Rabbi Akiva said you don't believe women, he came back and he reported to Rabbi Gamliel this other testimony, right, which led to a complete reversal of the practice, or not, or at least a huge broadening of the practice. Okay, let's take a look at the Gemara.
What's this idiom, kohenet? Is that an idiom?
Yeah, sometimes for Bas Kohen it says kohenet.
Oh.
Okay, so my ger isa de pundakis. What would be the problem with what's the kavachoma they were making? If you believe an innkeeper, you should certainly believe like a good Jewish, like a good, good Jewish woman, a Bas Kohen or something. So what's wrong with an innkeeper? Is she just from a lower social strata, which would have been a completely reasonable way of reading it? Like if you believe this, person from the lower classes, it's a sort of that sort of class bias, and certainly how could you should believe other women, people, certainly women from higher classes. Like how could you not believe other women? So, but anyway, the Gemara says, what was the problem with her that they made this kavachomer? So, Amar Rav Kahana, Pundakis Ovedes Kochavim Haisa. She was even non-Jewish, and they believed her, right? Which is basically interesting. It's introducing into the earlier stages, right? Again, the pre-reversal stages, or the reporting of and Rabbi Gamliel's action stages, the possibility of believing a non-Jew as well, right? Notice that, by the way, right? That was not right. Where did that sneak in? That you believe a non-Jew? When did that get established? So the Gemara is reading in that was already a matter of debate at the time of Rabbi Akiva. Okay, Pundaki Tovedes Kochaim Haisa, Misicha Lefituma, and she was just speaking, in all innocence. Haisa. This is his staff and his sack, and then where I buried him. She was a non-Jewish innkeeper. Okay, so the Gemara says, but they said, where's our friend? So they were asking here for explicit report on his state, which makes the Gemara assuming is not Mesiach Lefi Tuma. Again, it's very hard for me to know exactly what constitutes Mesiach Lefi Tuma, because the Gemara yesterday said that somebody comes back and says, where's so-and-so's wife? I want him to know that he died. Oh, that's Mesiach Lefi Tuma. That's not Niskavin Lahayid. So how is this any different? Where's our friend? So she told her where the friend was. I don't exactly get, exactly what the line is. But no, but it wasn't en passant yesterday, and it wasn't en passant before what we had today before the Mishnah. Right. I was walking with so-and-so, and he died, and I buried him. Anyway, somehow, because it's maybe if it's clear that they're like, we need to know, that makes it like lahayid. Like, we need your testimony, as opposed to somebody, even if they're intentionally informing, as opposed to being sort of like, as opposed to like being like quizzed, and as opposed to being, sort of directly, put on the spot and asked, maybe that makes it more of a type of like testimony. Okay, so that's the Gemara's question. So, and the fact that she's being like, drilled was what I was looking for. That should make it a no longer Mesiach Lefi Tuma. No, even the Chazatinu, she saw them Bachia crying. So I'm sorry, even the Chazatinu, excuse me, she saw them. They returned to the inn Bachia, and then she started crying. Okay, and then Amrullah, they said, where's our friend? Amrulahem, Meis v'kvartiv. So apparently, because she was dying first, she was crying first, and the response to seeing them, that made it a Mesiach Lefi Tuma. It was a thing that happened naturally. It didn't happen in the context of being drilled for information. Okay.
Good position, right? We only it reminds me of that. Like we see her crying and
yeah, right. But that's when somebody is coming into the court. Okay, so here presumably it stops being Mesiach Lefi Tuma when somebody is being directly queried and drilled. But if it was a natural response, that's okay. Okay, and all the other cases were natural responses. Somebody wasn't responding to being put in, into being questioned, as opposed. So that seems to be something that would shift it into no longer Mesiach Lefi Tuma. Okay, so now the Gemara continues. Okay, Tana Rabbanan. A man came to testify for a woman in front of Rabbi Tarfon. Amrlo, he said to him, how do you know regarding this testimony, regarding this woman's status? By the way, that's a phrase that we haven't seen so much of, but becomes a phrase used in a lot of other Gemaras, Eidus Isha, which does not mean the testimony given by a woman, but testimony in order to allow a woman to remarry. And often it is used to discuss who are the people that are believed le'edus isha. For edus isha, we believe an eid echad, eid mipi eid, a shifcha, a non-Jew, and so on. So that's an important to know that that's like a technical term that gets used in many other contexts. So he said to him, how do you know regarding this woman's status that her husband died? We were going on the way, and a army troop or some type of a troop of bandits or whatever ran after us. And he sort of grabbed onto a branch of an olive tree, and he sort of tore it off. And he returned and he like beat them back somehow with a branch. I don't know how he managed to do that. Amartilo, I said to him, Aryeh, Yasher Koyach. So you see, Yasher Kochacha is already in the Gemara. So we have Yortzeit and Yasher Koyach in the Gemara today. Okay, so I said, and he said, you're a lion. You managed to fight back those bandits. Strength be to you. Let your strength be straight. Amrali. So he said back to me, how do you know that was my name? My name is Aryeh. This is what they call me in my city. Yochanan Rabbi Yehonasan, Yochanan, the son of Rabbi Yehonasan, Aryeh, the lion, the Mikfar Shichaya, from the place of Shichaya. Okay, so apparently Aryeh was yet to be a proper name, but it was a nickname. Okay, and he had just mentioned, like, oh my God, you have the courage of a lion. And he said, you know what, that actually happens to be my nickname. Okay, so that would happen to also be then highly identifying information about him, right? And then what happened? Liyomim chala, and after a while, then he got sick. Umate, and he died. So that's how I know who it was. This is how I know who the guy was I was traveling with. And I'm telling you, he died. So that's a straight case of an Eid Echad with very specific and concrete information, not nearly a Chiddush based on everything we've been seeing until now. Okay? And now the Gemara also wants to clarify again, the range of where we could have gone with this, what we could have demanded. We could have demanded it be a male Eid Echad. We could have demanded we don't even accept Eid Echad. We always need two witnesses if it's not the wife. But even if we accept Eid Echad, we could have demanded that it be a normal like male kosher Eid. And now we're saying, and maybe we could have demanded that you go through a Drisha v'Chakira. Right, Drisha v'Chakira is what you normally do with witnesses. You drill them and you double check what they're saying, and to make sure that you're 100% certain that they're not that there's no mess ups in their testimony. So that wasn't the impression we got. We got the impression that somebody's just saying something in passing. You accept it as soon as they say it. So now the Gemara is looking at, again, a path that we didn't go down, that we could have gone down, that we could have treated this as classic testimony and demanded a classic Eid Echad and demanded Drisha v'Chakira. And now we're going to see that maybe Rabbi Tarfon did need that in other cases. Or the same case told differently. Rabbi Tarfon lo by drisha v'chakira. Did Rabbi Tarfon not require drisha v'chakira? V'atan return in brisa. Ma'isa ben echad shebali fnei Rabbi Tarfon leheid edus isha. Same story, but it'll end a little differently. Amar lo b'ni heichad hayodei edusu. How do you know this testimony? Amar lo ani v'ayinu alochim b'derech v'radav acharenu gayas v'nitla b'yichud shalteina v'shcho v'yichzir et hagayas lachorav. So again, he grabbed the palm branch, the olive branch, and he beat them back. Amarti lo yasher kochra aryeh. Amrli yafe kivanta lishmi. He said back to me, you know what? You guessed my name. Shekach chronos ibiri. This is what they call me in my city. Yochanan ben Yonatan Aryeh de mikfar Shechaya. Liyamim chala. And then he went there and he got sick, umate, and he died. This was what he said to Rabbi Gamliel. Now here's how the story ends different. Amarlo, Rabbi Gamliel said to him then, not Rabbi Gamliel, excuse me, Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Tarfon said to him, 1 minute.
It was also Tina as opposed to an olive.
Oh, was it? I missed that. Oh, now it makes a big difference. Okay. It was a ta'ena tree. It wasn't an olive tree. Okay, fine. So, okay, fine. So, it was a fig tree. Amarlo, lo kachamartali, Yochanan ben Yonatan de Mikfar Shechaya. Are you? Wait. What did you say his name was? You said it was Aryeh from Kfar Shechaya. I thought you said it was Kfar. I thought you said Aryeh was the end of his name. I thought you said it was Yochanan ben Yonasan of Kfar Shechaya Aryeh. So he was trying to see if he would adjust his testimony. 1 minute. Didn't you tell me the name was a little different? I'm related. Nope. That's not what I said. So he kept on trying to go back, like they do this, like when the police are trying, to questioning a witness. They go back over the same thing and have him say it again, and to make sure that it doesn't get said differently, each time, as a way of checking how consistent. Fine. The question is not this version versus the other version. It's within this version. The point was that Rabbi Gamliel was trying to trip him up. See that if he asked him to repeat the information, 1 minute, didn't you say this? Whether he would say, oh yeah, that is what I said, or whether he would remain consistent. And he remained consistent in his story. Okay, 2 and 3 times he tried to make him trip up. The kivin et dvarav, and he remained consistent in his testimony. And then the Hasi Rebbe Tarfon Esishtal. So you see a very different idea. We have never heard any of this until now. That you have to really do like a drilling and rigorous in order to see if
you just said the same thing 3 times.
Yeah, but you want to make sure. Let's go over it again, and presumably if there was any change, discrepancies, even if it was not substantive, he would have dismissed the testimony. We did not get that attitude that you look for a discrepancy and you throw it out. We got the attitude that you look for a way.
Where were you? This is
but obviously this is not the same type of drisha v'chakira. This is being used more loosely as meaning a type of a drilling and a searching for discrepancies. Okay, and that changes very much. That would have us dismiss a lot of testimonies, right? Because even people that are saying the truth, they don't always say things over exactly the same way, and they'll have slightly different versions.
You really can't ask that shadow that you saw.
Exactly. So here's a very different approach to where we could have gone with all of this. So the Gemara says, Tanai, it's a debate of Tanai and Tanya, we turn to Brisa. Ein bodkin edei nashim bedrisha v'chakira divrei Rabbi Akiva. You do not check women who are testifying. Again, that's an edus ish idea about a woman's status. You do not, ask them a very, a very incisive type of investigation. Okay, that's what Rabbi Akiva says. There's some question if this is Rabbi Akiva or they have the gears of Rabbi Akiva. Don't have the Rabbi Akiva. Have a period, and then it's Rabbi Akiva of Rabbi Tarfon Omrim. But anyway, in our version, it's Rabbi Akiva. It's the more lenient approach. Divrei Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Tarfon Omer Bodkin. You do check. Okay, the kamifligi but Rabbi Chanina, and this. So there's a debate whether Rabbi Tarfon demands drisha v'chakira. What's this debate hinging on? Rabbi Chanina's statement. The Amar Rabbi Chanina, Dvar Torah Echadine, Manas Echadine, Fasha Pedrisha v'chakira. Biblically speaking, you have to do now. This is talking about classic drisha v'chakira. Where were you? What time was it? What was the day? Basically, location and play and time, not a whole cross-examining. We're using drisha v'chakira to mean like a cross-examining and a reviewing and a being very like trying to see if the person will trip up. But classic drisha v'chakira means just identifying the time and place. So whether dine whether capital cases or monetary cases, need drisha v'chakira shenemar mishpat echad yelachem, one law, one procedure. Umatam amru dine mamanis ain't shrichim drisha v'chakira. Why do we not do it by dine mamanis? Shalom chino delis bifnei lovim, in order not to keep to lock the door in front of borrowers, because if they're gonna, if creditors are gonna know that in order to collect, they're gonna have to go through this like drill and this rigorous, cross-examination before they can prove that they're owed money. They won't lend money. Okay. By the way, the chakirot are the issue about the what do you call it? About the time and the location. The drisha part is just the general cross-examining. Okay, so drisha v'chakira includes both the specific of time and location, but the more issue that we're talking about is the drisha, is all of that cross-examining and checking every detail. Okay, ubimai kamiflagi. So now that's what we say by dinim mamanis. So how does that apply here? Mar savar kivin deika ksuva lemishkal kidinim mamanis dami. One says, since you're going to collect the ksuva, it's like dinim mamanis. Mar savar kivin the kasharin neshas ishlama. But since they're at personal status, kidinim nefashos dami. Now that is bizarre. Because, of course, who cares if there's also a dine mamanis element? The bigger element is personal status, and that should require drisha v'chakira. So the point here is that it's an excuse to, it's not really that it's dine mamanis. Nobody would say this is fundamentally a dine mamanis case. But because we can frame it as that gives us an out to not demand drisha v'chakira. And this is like said explicitly, if you look at this Tosos Chad Mikamai here on the right, he says like this, he says at the end here, he says like this, Umar Sarakim de Sharina Nation Isham Din the Fashas Damya, Allah Kurabanan, the Rabbi meaning that you don't need to Isha Hakira. Ode, Kivan to be Isham, we be Evid, Vishivcha, Messian. Once this was all within this narrower context that you need a classic Eid Echad and you're doing classic. Now we've like totally expanded, the rules of testimony here, So Mishum Takanas Aguna, once because of Aguna, we've completely broadened it from this initial approach. So he kilu. Okay, and similarly, the Tosos Chad Mikamai. Also, Tosos Yushanim on the other side says, so everybody goes with the flow here, because that is the flow. The flow is that we had, but again, it's so fascinating to see that halacha could have gone so differently here. It could have been a halacha of just the wife, and just an aid, and maybe not an aid echad, or if an aid echad, only a kosher aid, and if it's a kosher aid, only with drisha v'chakira, and we wind up completely loosening all of these things, right? Any type of witness, slave, non-Jew, minor, woman, any type of witness, and not only that, even hearsay testimony, and certainly not drisha v'chakira, which is like a classic, rigorous type of a approach towards giving testimony, and that's why the Gemara frames it as ksuva dine mamanis, as like, the way to say why we don't need it. But ultimately, we don't need it because we're completely reshaping what, the idea of edus in this case. We're not trying to make it fit a classic idea of edus. Yeah, I know. Yeah, right. And now the Gemara ends. Amar Rebbe Linzer, Amar Rabbi Chanina, Tamidi Chachamim Marbim Shalom Be'olam. And of course, this is highly appropriate for the end of this. Masechtas like to end with Agadata, though they don't always. But of course, this is so highly appropriate because here, as a result of all of this amazing innovation of the sages, and the way the halacha went, it created a tremendous amount of resolving of aguna situations, right? But through this really breathtaking sense of innovation, and you really see it's so powerful. This last daf about how the history halacha developed, and you see the paths it could have taken that it didn't take. Okay, so yeshakayach to everybody. I will say we have 1 minute left. People don't want to go there. I'll just read you a marsha at the very end on this agadita. Such a powerful marsha, and he just points out this issue about rabbinic innovation. And he says, I'll just read you one line. I know he says like this. He says like this. He says, I've been listening. He says, he says this whole mesechet seems to be parak that we're being oker davar min Torah, right? Because we're violating all these principles of tu edim and the whole thing and HSish. And then he says, de'ein zakira elam imidas shalom shalot ha'agen ha'isha v'ksiv darchei noam. Shelo Tamayis Beinei Ba'alav, V'imitain Laget, etc., etc. Lo Yunel Tzadik, V'tisha B'veisav Lo Tagain, V'amar Lamana Chayvrel, Lefi Sheheminu Eid Echad, Kami Isha Atzma Nemenes L'Mermeis Bali. Anyway, he says that the point of this is that you might think this entire parak and these last few prakim are all like violating the words of the Torah. They're going against the requirement for Eidos. But no, the whole idea of Shalom is part of the way of the Torah. Right, and it is completely consistent with the Torah to use that as a lens through which to interpret and develop halacha. Okay, so very beautiful point. We didn't get to read it fully, but really tying in that last statement with everything we've been seeing in these last prayers. Yashakayach to everyone.
Especially to you.
All
There's a
right.
little note here at the